Sure. So I heard, I think I was Ben Dubard. You were on with him,
Mm.
and I think you had mentioned that there was really no way to get some, normal traditional finance people in. And I had just wondered if you had heard of the Hex Investment Trust or done any research on it, knowing right now that it is only accredited investors. But it is the registered 506C, and it'll eventually be going public. I think when they reach, I forget what the threshold is, whether it's 10 million or whatever the number, but either way, it will be eventually going public. And I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think that's a good dabble into for the people who are in TradFi, who are very wary. So I'll say this. A lot of people like to give wealthy TradFi people, criticism for not investing into real DeFi. But you also have to think from a different perspective too. There's a point of capital preservation and capital accumulation, right? So in other words, there's a point of wealth preservation and wealth accumulation.
Right.
So in my perspective, when I'm 55 years old, you can have the next Facebook in front of my face. But if I'm worth 20 million, I have no desire to be going and gambling my wealth. I'm at that point, my game is capital preservation. All right. Right now in my 20s, I don't have that net worth. So I can be more risky. Right. So I can be like, you know what? Let me go all in wealth accumulation. You build wealth and then you preserve the wealth. So I have to think at it from that perspective too, is the people who refuse to go, heavy into these real DeFi assets just because they're very wealthy. They don't need to be gambling that. But the Hex Investment Trust is a great way for them to dab into it little by little, whether it's 1%, 2%, 3%. And then all they need to do is dabble into it. And anybody who has a decent level of investing, they're going to want to research what they're putting their money into it. They're not just going to put their money into it and then, say, oh, it is what it is, and not understand what they hold. So then over time, as years go by, and then they understand, oh, you know what? This is actually the next big thing. This Hex as a whole, the actual Hex, not the Hex Investment Trust, the actual Hex and the PulseX and the Pulse Chain, those are real DeFi assets. Then they go in a little bit more because they understand it. But that was a good introduction because it allowed them to basically put their money in a risky but safe way at the same time.
Right.
Especially those who are older, who are not going to be wanting to deal with MetaMask and their private keys and their self-sovereignty wallets, all that stuff. This is a great opportunity for them to just invest, get curious about it. And once they get curious about it, they go down the rabbit hole. And then that's when they get really passionate about this is the next big thing.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Have skin in the game. And then, you kind of get once you actually put your money where your mouth is, you tend to, like you said, get more invested in whatever it is, figuratively and literally. So makes sense for sure.
Yeah. And I think about it from my perspective too. Like when I sacrificed, I didn't know what I was sacrificing for. Somebody just said, "Hey man, just trust me, right?" That's what I did.
Bro.
Trust me, bro, right? But to me, as someone who's very, very knowledgeable in the investing world, I was very curious as to what I was putting my money into. So then I spent the next 2 years just going down the rabbit hole. And the same thing, that's the same thing with the Hex Investment Trust. It builds that curiosity for them to go and build their own reasoning and rationale and come to their own conclusion. And then that's when you see people going into the real deep stuff. Like it's going to take some time, but we'll get there.
You did it backwards from a lot of people and what they say. I find it interesting and how that happens. So many people will try to do research forever first before they invest anything. And by the time they're done doing research, they missed whatever run up that was about to happen. And then they get frustrated and say, well, I missed it. I like the thought of let's go in, do it, and I'll learn all about it after that. Just in case. I do like that approach.
You know what? I would say that people who are not desperate in life and have a fairly good income, they have the liberty to be like, you know what, I'm gonna put 2,000 to 5,000 and just risk it.
Yep.
Right. I can justify $2,000-3,000 easy because I can go spend that on food in a year. Right. I can go spend that on stupid shit in a year. So if you just ration out that way, I'm gonna lose this money anyways. But at least in this way, I have an upside of maybe 100x or 10,000x over a period of time. Then you put it that way. Because when I went into the PulseX sacrifice, I thought to myself, I can lose 2,000. 2,000 not gonna make much of a difference in my life. But if I'm right, 2,000 can easily turn into 250,000 to 2 million. And then on the upside, great side, it'd be, multiple millions. But at least I went in.
Yep.
At least
Right.
I took action. And that's why I'm very proud of my brothers, is because they didn't do 2-3 years of research like I did. They said, you know what, I trust this dude and I'm gonna lose this money, but my downside is $2,000, which is not life-changing, but my upside, that is life-changing. And that's what people have to think, is like, at least get in. So you lock in that position early, even if it's $1,000. $1,000 at the bottom, man, that's life-changing for most people. So, and then when you spend the amount of time learning, then you get into this moment of, damn, I should have put in more. Because even someone like myself, I felt that I should have put in more at the bottom. And you reflect back, like, I could have cut down on this. I didn't have to spend money on this, and I could have put that money into investments. But at the same time, you also have to be grateful that you took action, grateful that you found it. And I hope a lot of people that watch this not only just watch it and decide to go do more hours of research, but watch it, take action, and then do research, because at least you locked in your position. And that position, as long as you don't sell, is going to be worth very, very valuable in the future.
Well said. Yeah, I think the paralysis by analysis thing really haunts a lot of people, and that is what most people do, and they don't, it's shit or get off the pot. And I'm with you 100% on that. At least get some skin in the game, and then you can kind of learn after that. So